Hi, everyone. Welcome back. It's Andrew Dailey of MGI Research, and welcome to our next section, Sophisticated Monetization Planning for the Future. A lot of times folks think of things like subscription billing, they think of it, or even usage billing, and they think of it as a relatively modest sized project or for modest sized businesses. And there's a lot more involved than that. And so to really get into what does it take to be successful in a large, complex, sophisticated environment, whether that's for a mid-sized company or a very large company, I'm delighted to be joined by Marni Burger, the Vice President of Marketing from Gotransverse. Marni, welcome to the Monetize Forum.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. Hey, everybody.
So for starters, just give us a little sense of the size, scope, and background of Gotransverse.
Great. Yeah. So Gotransverse, we enable global multinational B2B, B2C, and B2B2C businesses to drive new revenue, bring new offerings to market faster, and improve cash flow with our cloud-based order-to-cash billing platform designed for innovative monetization models at scale. We really focus in on those complex monetization challenges, and we're pretty uniquely positioned in the market between the numerous simple subscription billing providers and those legacy complex billing providers.
So one of the themes running through the Monetize Forum is the rise of the so-called usage economy. Where does your organization fit in that kind of trend? How do you see that evolving?
Yeah, so we've really been involved with usage-based and consumption-based billing since the beginning 12 years ago. We saw industries needing those types of models besides just telco that had it at the time. And we certainly saw the value in the cloud as well. Our customers are doing some of the most complex usage in the world across industries like communications, media entertainment, SaaS, and more. We have B2B telco customers that are doing monthly invoices based on lookups of rates for country and city codes around the world. Also looking at what types of services are being used from call, data, SMS, etc. They have millions of entries in the lookup tables with different rate cards based on country or city. We also work with a mortgaging company that resells mortgages with different terms. Each line item can determine the rate in the lookup table. They can have 30 to 50 rules per customer with many different lookup tables and values. A lot of billing solutions, they talk about how they have usage, but they can't always handle the complexities and volumes that come with that.
What are some of the changes you've seen as kind of the usage and consumption models have gained more traction here in the last just even 12 months? What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, well, there's certainly industries that have always used these types of models, communications, media entertainment for some. But in the last few years, we've really seen new industries take on new technology and really adopt these new types of models. So we work with a logistics company that, of course, has been really successful over the last year that works with warehouses and merchants to bill based on how much space is getting used and the number of orders coming in and out of the warehouse. We work with an energy company that bills businesses based on consumption of services that help reduce utilities, waste, and telco expenses. And also we work with an airport that's moving to usage-driven businesses. It charges airlines, enterprise, and other businesses based on airport charges like the time of the day a plane takes off and lands, staff parking options, and telematics, which is basically just internet. These are just some of the examples that we've seen, and we're seeing more and more each year.
Yeah, a wide range of industries.
Yeah.
One of the benefits of recurring revenue business is the predictability. It gives predictability for customers, it gives predictability for the seller to model their business and to forecast revenues. When you get into a usage-based model, you then have to try to forecast revenues and model your business based off of consumption that may or may not take place by your customers. What do you see as some of the challenges, or what are the ways that companies solve that kind of inherent problem in a usage or consumption model?
Yeah, so we certainly have customers that are 100% usage or consumption based. But a lot of our customers actually decide that they want to do a combination. So maybe it's they have some usage or consumption-based pricing, but they also have subscription or recurring pricing, and then one-time pricing or fees associated with it. And so what they'll do is they'll use that combination and maybe make the subscription the baseline. This is what people do the most. And then they'll have an adder that will be kind of that usage-based or that consumption-based pricing. And that way you'll have that baseline, but then you'll be able to get kind of additional revenue as people are using these new and these additional offerings. But those customers that do have 100% usage, talking to them, really you'll start to see trends. So it's not like users are going to be all over the map with your product. Typically, the users themselves are going to have trends, and then your customer base will have trends as well. So you can use that to help kind of predicting out the revenue that you're going to be seeing from those different products and services.
Yeah, got it. One of the challenges of real usage billing is the issue of data mediation, which is a term that comes out of the telco space. Telco world understands that very well, which is really how do you take different data types, data sources, and standardize that data, normalize that data, standardize it, sometimes enhance that data, curate it, and then feed it to the appropriate systems in different time intervals as necessary. First of all, what is, for the layperson, what is mediation, and why is that such a critical and kind of necessary component to a real usage-based model?
Yeah, we found mediation to be, like you said, critical if you're adopting a usage or consumption-based model. Basically, what happens is usage events will come in a wide variety of formats. And what mediation does is it makes sure that they get digested quickly and properly to be rated by the rating engine. So good mediation solutions, like you said, will have these business rules that can be added on top. So if you need to aggregate the events, or if you have missing data and you need to do data enrichment with a lookup table, you can do that to ensure that you have good data coming in to your system. We have customers with a wide variety of applications that have usage data from different types of source data systems with different data formats. Two common examples that we see are hosting services like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, and also application services like mail servers, web services, et cetera. As you can imagine, the formats of those data sources are going to be very different, and you need to put them into a certain format in order to be digested properly into your billing solution. So without mediation, they would need to do some sort of data transformation through programming, or maybe an ESB or external mediation solution. And that's just not going to be as good as if you can have it in directly with the billing itself.
Yeah, and another thing that we see, and you mentioned one of the airports that you're working with often, and you also mentioned these complex models where you've got subscriptions, usage, ramp deals, a lot of complexity. You guys see it, like, talk to us about this airport. How many different billing use cases does one organization have, and is that common across what you see in large sophisticated businesses?
Yeah, so the airport, it's a really interesting scenario because if you think about airports and other industries like that, they have industry specific software that can accommodate that. But what's kind of unique to this airport is they're looking at all the activities that happen at the airport as kind of usage events. And by doing that, they're able to adopt a more common kind of SaaS usage-based solution. So the airport, it's really interesting because, yeah, they do. There's all these different types of airport charges that you can have. Like I mentioned, that time of day, the plane takes off is one, but you also have baggage handling and kind of just all these different activities that are part of the charges that are different usage events that take place. Also, staff parking options. Maybe they have like a badge that gets them parking that gets them discounted. Maybe it's they charge per time that they come in. There's all these different things from a staff parking option that you see too. And then internet, as you know, there's lots of different ways that you can charge for internet too. So being able to aggregate all of that And the airport situation that we work with is a B2B. So they're not working with consumers, but they're working with other airlines, and they're working with enterprises. And you can think about, the different variables that might come into charging that airline every month, or that business that is using the airport as well. So it's just really interesting, all the different variables that come with that. And by thinking of them as usage events, like I said, they can adopt a more kind of standard SaaS application, as opposed to having to go to some of these niche solutions that are in place as well.
Yeah, I want to go back to one of your earlier comments when you talked about in usage models, you very quickly, and everyone sees this, you very quickly start to see trends in consumption patterns. Talk to
Right.
me a little bit about kind of the importance of data and analytics and how the use of that changes when you go from a relatively static model to a more dynamic model or kinetic model like usage-based.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you might expect with usage data, you can see how people are using your product. And that gives you insight to see, for forecasting, a lot more insight into maybe if you had a one-time fee or you had a monthly subscription, you get to see variables of how people are using your product. Maybe they're trailing off, maybe they're ramping up. There's opportunities, of course, for cross-sell and upsell as part of that. But one of the things that we really focus in on is not just the usage data. It's how do you combine that with the mediated data and the rating data? And it really gives you some rich insights into how people are buying your products and services, not just how they're using them. A thing to take into consideration with that, and really all usage data that you're dealing with, is there's going to be large data volumes that you get with usage data that you don't get with other types of pricing models. And so that requires you to be able to have to need fast access and fast query capabilities as part of that. Another thing that we really like to talk about with data is data doesn't happen in a vacuum that's just billing. We really talk about our customers about combining the billing data with other data sets, putting it in kind of a preferred reporting or analytics tool. And really that's how you can drive these unique business insights to help with those real-time business decisions.
So you were one of the first companies to partner with Snowflake. And is that, basically what you just described, I'm guessing, is really the key motivation behind that relationship?
Absolutely. So we have an offering called Premier Data Access, where we partnered with Snowflake, like you said, and they enable us to use our data sets and merge it with other data sets and put in, like I said, kind of any reporting or analytics tool that you might need. They do it in near real time, and they enable kind of that fast access that I was talking about that come with these large data volumes.
So what are some of you were describing fairly complex airport scenario, customer of yours. If I'm a large multinational business with a dozen or more different types of business models and use cases, what should I be looking at or analyzing when I'm looking at different suppliers? How are their requirements different than, say, a standard SaaS company or something?
Yeah, absolutely. So you might think currencies and languages, of course, that's something you should be looking at. But there's things that really we've learned with working with these global multinational businesses that you need to take into consideration as well. So thinking about how regions do business, certain regions do business differently than other regions. And so typically you'll want to look per country or region and create different ways that you're showing your billing and your pricing to your customers. So your product catalog and pricing might be different. For example, you could have a USD price that's different in the US versus Australia versus Singapore, but also some other things that you might not be thinking about, like payment methods, gateways, and processes are different. People in the US like to pay differently than they do in Europe. So you'll need to take that into consideration moving into new markets. Also, the display of information on the invoice can vary more than just language, but you might need different types of information on the invoice or in different locations based on kind of what the customers need in that area. User access security can be different, and then currency conversion needs as well. So you'll need to kind of look at each country or region as its own entity and be able to accommodate the unique needs that they have, kind of the market demands in that area.
Got it. What, when you're in a sales cycle, it's difficult to really provide unvarnished advice to a prospect, right?
Sure.
So you're not selling me anything. I'm not selling you anything. What unvarnished advice would you give to a CFO or CIO who's going down this path to start looking at usage-based models? Like, what would you tell them so that they know before anything else happens?
Yeah. So actually, the first thing that I have for this is something that we actually do talk out to as part of the sales process, but it's the planning for the future, or planning for scale. Don't just think about what are your needs right now, but think about what your customers are going to demand, what the market's going to demand in the next 2, 3, 5 years, and planning for that. You don't want to have a solution that you're putting in place now and then have to redo it, a few years down the road. The next thing is really looking at the agility of the solution that you're putting in place. Obviously, 2020 required a lot of changes for businesses, and you need to really look for a solution that's going to enable you to test out new pricing models, bring new offerings to market quickly, and agility is really a key part of that. The third thing is around not all usage and consumption-based models are the same. There's a lot of vendors out there who talk about how they do those different types of models, and they really just kind of do the basics there. So if you need more than just the basics, make sure that you're investigating different options there. And then finally, I asked the team kind of what their advice would be, and they had a very pragmatic response that I wanted to share with you guys. So just make sure that the invoice is really easy to read, transparent, and understandable by your customers. When you're talking about usage and consumption-based business models, sometimes those can be a little more difficult to explain the pricing. And so making sure that you're very clear on that in your invoices is something that's going to be very important to kind of build that relationship with your customers and then help with long-term tickets and things like that.
Absolutely. No one thinks about it, but your invoice really is your brand.
Yes, exactly.
It's the time when the customer, the rubber meets the road, the customer sees exactly what they're spending, and hopefully it's clear and easy to understand.
That's right.
And doesn't create any underlying tension or unease.
Yeah.
When they look at that bill.
That's exactly what they were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So we're almost out of time here. What's one thing that every CEO or CFO doesn't know about Gotransverse but should?
Yeah. So as I've talked about, we really focus in on the complex monetization needs that businesses have. And typically with those needs, the challenges associated with those are going to involve new processes, new types of roles. And so Gotransverse, we really want to partner with our customers. We bring in billing experts to help them guide them to find the best solution, to help them meet the needs that they have. We have an executive sponsorship throughout the whole process, in case you want to talk through what your solution is, or if you need to escalate something, you have somebody to talk to right at the top. And then we have a customer success manager that's involved right from the beginning to make sure that we can find that right solution for you.
Great. Well, Marni, thank you very much for your time. That was Marni Burger, Vice President of Gotransverse. And I'd like to remind everyone there's more information, I'm sure, at your booth. You're going to be around for the networking. Great resource. So thanks very much. Thanks everyone for joining us, and enjoy the Monetize Forum.
Thanks everyone.